Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. I just received something in regards to my van going into the shop, so I thought I would share it with you guys so you could see the true situation of what happens when you get into an accident. So let's go take a look. Now, for those of you who haven't been along for the journey, I drive a 2020 NV200, the one I was just standing in front of. When I was in Phoenix, Arizona, I was in a fender bender where someone actually ended up rear-ending me. And it wasn't fun, but I was advised by my insurance that if I wanted to get the job done here in Texas, it would probably be a little more convenient for me based on the fact that this could keep me out of my van for a while. And I travel the country in my van, and I basically live in it while I'm on the road. So that was not an option. So I opted to come back to Texas and have a shop that is local work on it. That way, if I was put out of my van, I would at least have a good place to stay, which is why I've been here at my base camp. But wow, it has been a journey catching everybody back up to speed. It started out with me calling them when I was in Phoenix and saying, hey, I got into an accident. The initial claim I thought had been filed. However, when I got to Texas, ways down the line, I called as I was told to do, and they said, oh, we have to start this process now. Oh my goodness, what did I even do whenever I first called? I mean, it made no sense as to why they wouldn't have just gone ahead and filed it and then I just correspond. But okay, we started over from scratch. That took a day. Then finally, I got shifted over to another department, who then shifted me to another department, who then ended up finally just basically saying, okay, whenever we're ready to take it to the shop, you're gonna be fine. I was not, in fact, fine. I never heard from the shop, and weeks started to pass and roll by. And so I started to get really, first of all, nervous that they weren't going to take care of it, and also frustrated because, again, my life is spent about 75% of the time on the road. So I finally just took it in my own hands. I logged onto the portal and I was like, what is going on? Only to realize that the shop that I told them I wanted to take it to was not in their preferred network. And so I had to figure out how to go to that shop when it wasn't in their preferred network. So I tried to figure it out. And finally, I just gave up and called the shop and said, please help. Do you know how to do this? And they gave me some great advice. So after that, long story short, I ended up taking it up to the shop, getting the estimate, and getting a date for when we will take the van actually in for repairs, which is not until July. I don't know when you're seeing this video, but it's July 10th is going to be the date, which is like a month and a half away. You know, it just kind of is what it is. But this was the kicker. I just received a message today from State Farm saying, ooh, we have approved the estimate. So let's find out how much damage really was done. Now, mind you, when I had this accident, I had a lot of interesting comments. Oh, it's nothing. Oh, it's no big deal. Oh, you're just being dramatic. And I was like, no, this is a big deal. I have barn doors. They open and close like this, and they weren't lining up correctly, and the sensors, as a result, were going haywire and wonky, and it made me very nervous. And so I knew that at least the sensors were going to have to somehow be reconfigured. Some pressure was going to have to be taken off of them. It could be a cord that has been kind of snipped in the process, and that the crinkles that were in my back door, which everybody was just like, those are tiny, it's no big deal, it's just cosmetic. No, they were not. So today we're going to find out what exactly they have determined, and oh my goodness, this is a ride. This is a ride. But with full transparency, I share everything here on the channel. So let's find out how much that State Farm has officially assessed my van damage to be. And I'm finding that it's probably going to be more than that just based on what the shop said. But we're about to find out together. Waiting. This has been my struggle with State Farm. And yes, I know my computer is filthy. I need to clean my screen badly. I need to get some more little wipes for it. Yeah, this is problematic. Do you see this? Do you see this? It just keeps telling me I've logged out. I'm not logged out. State Farm, get it together. This has literally been my ongoing problem with the whole entire process. For those who weren't along for the other part of the journey, this has been a problem. Since the beginning, I was told I needed to log into their portal. I logged into their portal, and then it told me my password was corrupt, literally after I put it in. And then they told me I would have to reset my password. I have now reset my password 3 times in the first day, and then numerous times after that. And now that we're trying to log back into the portal, it says that I need to check my saved password because there's been a data breach on their part. Thanks, State Farm. I just want to see how much the estimate is. Like, see, it's saying that there's a data breach and that I need to go to my password manager to make sure that I am checking my saved passwords. Which doesn't give me a lot of confidence because I don't have this problem with literally any other site, including my insurance or any of my accounts. So it's literally State Farm. I thought at first, oh, well, maybe I'm having some connectivity issues. So I went to a place that I have perfect connectivity, and no, it is in fact them. I literally did nothing other than say log in and put my stuff in, and it does this. And then it takes me to their website, and well, let me show you. See, according to this, we are in. However, it also says my password is still corrupted. Again, finally, it lets me in and it says that we are experiencing delays in repairs due to parts and labor shortages. Yep. Now, that part isn't a surprise to me whatsoever because realistically, whenever I went to the shop, it's a local shop, cool guy, went to school with him, and he's very straightforward and honest with all of his customers. So whenever I talked to him, he was just like, yeah, July 10th. And I was like, okay, I understand. And he was like, it's been a lot. Basically, he informed me that there's a lot of people who have parts that have been on back order and then been on back order and then been on back order. It's just the world that we live in currently. I've noticed that even people who are getting new vehicles are having to wait an extended amount of time if they want to get certain vehicles because the production lines just aren't cranking it out like they were. So this is just like a real thing that's going on. Now, something I did learn after that consultation with him, though, whenever I was going through and looking, was that some vehicles, especially older vehicles, in their attempt to phase out older emission vehicles, they're just not putting parts out, like, at all. And I think that is wild. So if you have an older van, that is something to think about because this is going to be an ongoing thing as they move toward, like, phasing out older vehicles and trying to push people into newer, more efficient vehicles just as a whole. And is it right? No, but is it the reality? Yeah, it's what we live in. So things just loaded up. Let's see what it says. Ooh, I'm so nervous and also excited because again, they are fully paying for the repair because it was their client's fault. However, I'm just curious to see how much damage actually was done to little dimples out there. Oh my gosh. This is the total estimate, and today is the 25th. So they officially approved this on the 23rd, but didn't notify me till today. It wasn't a weekend, so I have no idea why, but $6,000. Oh my goodness. So let's go to the estimate details, because now I'm super curious. That's a little bit more than just a crinkle, don't you think? So for anyone out there who was telling me I was crazy and that I was being dramatic, the insurance estimate says otherwise. I know my van very well, and so whenever I notice that there's something weird going on with it, I am very hyper aware, and you should be too if you're on the road, realistically, because you have to know your vehicle because not only is it your daily driver, but it's also your residence. So it's all of the little things. Like, so if I were to equate that to like my tiny home, if I am in my tiny home and all of a sudden I smell something that smells weird, I'm going to go and seek that out. I'm not going to just let it rock and smell weird. I'm going to try to figure out what the source is. I'm going to want to know if it's like something is burning, something is mildewed, something is in the trash that needs to be taken out. I'm going to figure that out because that's my responsibility as a person who has a home. So why wouldn't you do that with your vehicle also? If something is wonky, you need to know why, because letting something just sit and being like, oh, I'll get to it later ends up making it much, much worse. And so if you hear a crack, a rattle, a ding, or smell something, investigate. Take it to the shop. Do what you need to do so that you don't have things come, like just pile up and be this horrible storm of craziness at the end. So with that said, let's go to the details. Okay, I clicked on it, and again, their website is not responding. Okay, there it goes. Okay, finally. So it says here, the parts are $3,138. The labor is $1,729. Towing was $0 because I drove it. Other, I don't know what other is, but it's $1,134. Okay, and then we get to download the detailed estimate here in PDF. Now, something else I noticed on their website that was a little different than the last time I was able to log in is on the first page of State Farm. Whenever you go to a claim, it tells you about all the next steps, what you need to do, what they're doing. It gives you a progress report. And I noticed that on the rental car, which they're supposed to get me a rental car if I want one, it now says declined. I never declined that. So just because I can't get it at this moment because I still have my vehicle doesn't mean I'm declining it. May have to talk to them about that. It's not so much that I necessarily want to have a rental car, because I don't at this time. But if the van's gonna have to be in the shop for like days and days and days, yes, I might. At the same time, it's not the most convenient to have to drive to the Metroplex to get one. So I've kind of been going back and forth with this. But for them to just outright decline it when my insurance says they have to pay for it, that's a big no-no. You know, along the way, I don't like to say bad things about companies, but I have noticed that with this particular situation, and my situation may be a little bit different than somebody else's because I was in a different state, State Farm has struggled at best to deal with this. And they told me at first that the reason why they had done that initial transfer was because I was in a different state. So they needed to get me to somebody that could take care of it in my state. But they shipped me off to Georgia, and I am definitely in Texas. So the communication breakdowns from place to place, transfer to transfer, has been very much so a real thing in my personal situation. So I am hoping, crossing my fingers, that this being the first estimate, again, this could be one of many, depending on if they get in there and find more stuff, that it goes a little bit more smoothly. Now, I did take the proactive stance to go ahead and make sure that we speed this along once it does go to the shop by saying, hey, send the money directly to the shop, because I don't want you to send it to me and it take 7 to 10 days to get to me, and then me have to take it to the shop before that they can get paid. And if there is another scenario where it's more stuff, then you have to cut me another check, and it just add to the timeline. I shouldn't have to be the middleman. Realistically, the customer should not be the middleman, especially whenever you're not their customer. Their customer is the one who was responsible. So now they're putting the burden on me as a person, and that's not okay in my opinion. They should be communicating better when it comes to getting people fixed up, because realistically, isn't every insurance company's goal to make somebody satisfied so that they want to be their customer because they had great treatment? Not thinking so much about this one. Definitely won't be a State Farm customer anytime soon. And I'm not saying that the local State Farm customer reps or anything like that are at fault. I'm saying that their structure as a whole, at least in these situations where you're out of state and then you're going to another state, it leaves a lot to be desired, guys. Okay, here we go. So it looks like they're going to work on my little rear bumper. They're repairing it because it did have a little bit of a little bump on it. It wasn't anything too terrible, but they have a minimum repair time of 3 hours, and then they have to repaint it whenever they repaint everything else. The back door, sure enough, they're having to completely replace the one back door, and so the shell cost is $2,932. Wow, $2,900 for a new door. And I kind of expected that, because whenever we were kind of going through and we were talking, the bottom scratch, which I'll show you guys in a minute, is pretty deep and it's really far down and it's not in a really repairable place. They also are going to have to repair the other door. The other door wasn't as bad. It just had a little bit of work that needed to be done to it, but it's a non-major panel, so it's not as bad. They're having to replace the emblems on here, it looks like. And then also they're having to do all of the paint and things like that. So altogether, that's a lot. But then we go down here and we have our labor, our parts, our paint supplies, and then the miscellaneous charges. So parts altogether is $31.38 by itself, because we have to replace those doors. The body labor is 12.3 hours, and they get paid about $62 an hour. And so it's $762.60. You know, that is actually a pretty average number right there. I've seen other people who've had to have body work, and that's about normal. Paint labor is 15.6 hours. Of course, with paint, it's not just like, hey, we go over this one coat. It's a process, so it takes a little bit longer. And then also the paint supplies, which is $780. Wow. So altogether, it ends up being $6,002.39. Yep, I kind of knew it was going to be high. I didn't know it would be quite that high though. And because we're in Texas, of course, Texas wants their part. So we have an 8.25% interest rate for all sales tax. So it ends up being about $320 in just sales tax. So that's where we're at. That's what we have to look forward to. Now, the interesting thing about this is they sent me a text and it had some information on there and they said, would you like to share this with your shop? Again, I don't understand why I would need to share this with the shop considering they're corresponding with the shop. So I am going to call the shop just to ask, hey, do I need to send this to you? Even though I feel like that's a step that shouldn't have to be my responsibility, nor should it be something that even falls into my hands. But, you know, they said, would I like to share it? So sure, I'm going to try to do my part and my due diligence so this speeds up the process. And if for some reason they did not relate to the shop in this way, I just don't understand. It just baffles me at this point. But let's go look at the van and I'll show you exactly what's being replaced. And then also, again, this is the first estimate. So if they get in there and they replace this door and it still doesn't fix the sensor issue, they may have to go in and do more. I don't know, and I won't know until they actually get in there. But at least this will give us kind of an idea. And if you have a smaller van like this one and you ever have a situation, I hope this can be helpful to you. We're doing this because, for one, again, full transparency, and I've taken you along all the different steps, but also to kind of talk about the experience, because as nomads, a lot of times we have weird stuff happen, and a lot of people don't talk about this side. They're just like, oh, we had an accident, we took it in, and now it's better. But I want you guys to see the true cost, because if this would not have been something that was covered by insurance, this would be the out-of-pocket amount just to get it back to like full function how it's supposed to be. And $6,000 is horrible, guys. Oh my gosh. But at the same time, it is worth it to increase the shelf life of the van in the long run, to have it fixed, because that way I don't have to worry about my doors opening or my sensor continuing to go off or me having to slam the door, which is what I'm having to do right now. I'm probably not going to open the door while we're sitting out here doing this, just because I'm trying to limit the amount of times that I open and close the door, because every time I have to slam it, the latch mechanism has a point where at some point it may or may not ever turn off that sensor. So I'm just trying to not open the doors. The only other time I will probably be opening my rear doors is whenever I do remove my bed. That will be right before I actually take it into the shop though. Other than that, just not doing it. Also though, this part's kind of interesting. It says here, part prices increase may occur, possible hidden damage, estimate valid for 30 days. So see, part prices could change based on the availability. So this is as of when they did the estimate, but also the possible hidden damage. That's what I was talking about on things are in the door, and until they actually get the door off, they don't know. Okay, so looking at it here, you can see there's a little ding here, and it looks like a little area there. Now, the other thing though is over here, you'll notice that there's like a pinch right up against the actual door itself. But when we get closer, you'll notice that this gutter right here, it doesn't go all the way across. This is where her grill actually just pushed into the van, and it created this gash that is about 1 foot to 1.5 feet long. And this being at the bottom of the door, they can't just replace this and pop it out. Also, though, this part right here, somewhere in this panel, somewhere is where they have the wiring. I'm not sure, but it goes in and then it goes over and then goes that way, and then it runs up to the sensors. So again, even though it doesn't look like it's a lot of damage, we now know that it's way more damage than it appears. So if you have something tiny on your van that goes wrong, you may think, oh, no big deal. But in reality, it could be super, super costly, which is the only reason that I wanted to share this video today, to kind of put this into perspective so you can see that, you know, things aren't always just as simple as they appear. And for all those people who are saying, oh, you're crazy, it's nothing, $6,000 begs to differ. Okay, so came back in. I called the shop itself to ask if they do need me to send this to them. So I'll just await their information. I told them that if I don't, just don't worry about contacting me, but if I do, to let me know. So I'll let you guys know if it was my responsibility to send it to them, but it's on their official letterhead, the estimate and everything. So I'm assuming that the insurance would contact them. However, I just, again, don't understand the protocol for state farm, I guess, where they're like, hey, you need to give this to them. So, yeah. I'm going to keep you guys posted, and on the day that we take this actually into the shop, I'll let you guys know, and then I'll show you a follow-up. We're just tracking the progress, and then also I'll let you know if there were any additional things that were found whenever they pulled the doors off. But for now, I hope this video is helpful. I hope that you guys can see that a little ding can go a long way, and that you need to be vigilant and be your own advocate. If I wouldn't have started interceding into this process by trying to reach out directly to the shop, who knows how long that I would have been strung along by State Farm just waiting. Again, I don't know that this is everyone's experience, and I don't want to speak for the brand as a whole, because you may love them. You may have had wonderful experience, and the representatives that I've known at the local level have always been so kind. So I feel bad that this has been my experience, but I do want to share this because, again, a lot of people, whenever you're out there looking for insurance for your vehicle, or expecting that, you know, you're going to have this service so you can have a quick response, that isn't always the case. We're going on now some time. In fact, my original official claim, even though my accident was in March and that's when I made the initial contact with them, my official claim was not actually started until I recalled them in April at the very end, at the 27th. And then it took them until midway through May to actually, kind of address the fact that they hadn't responded to me. And that was only because of my insistence of calling the shop. Otherwise, I would still be sitting here waiting. But it's taken them from May 18th until May 23rd to approve the estimate. And now we're just waiting to get in. Again, guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time. And sometimes it's a frustrating time. But I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. So after I finished this video, I got another correspondence from them saying, oh, you need to accept the funds, even though I've told them to send them to the shop. And so I was like, okay, maybe I just have to approve it that I saw it. I don't know. So I clicked on it, and then it wanted me to enter my bank account. No, I'm not going to do that. So I'm currently on the phone again with State Farm. Frustration does not even begin to explain this at this point. I don't understand why this is my responsibility. I don't understand why, when we had a very clear conversation that said, you will send the check to the shop, they are now trying to access my bank account, which if their site is already corrupt, why would I ever do that? Or my PayPal, which if I take the money out of my PayPal will then charge me, which means that I'll end up paying for part of the repairs when it wasn't my fault. Oh my gosh. I'll let you guys know how this goes. I don't see this going well. Don't get into an accident, guys. Don't do it. I'll see you guys next time.